Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Well, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. This is the best way to help out the channel. But if you're looking for more ways to help out the channel, got a couple of links in the description. One will take you to some merchandise, get you some cool hoodies and t-shirts, or you can just buy me a coffee. It's really up to you. Either way, I thank you for both, and I thank you for being here. But with all that out of the way, let's see what we got today. We are live.
Can you imagine looking up into the skies and seeing giant airships meandering in and out of the clouds? Can you imagine what that must have looked like in a time before airplanes? It must have been one hell of a sight to witness in person. I can't stop thinking about these airships. I've shown them in my videos a few times already, but as I'm pretty obsessive, I've gathered even more photos and made yet another one for you all. Airships were very widely used in our not so distant past. These magnificent flying machines were powered by the ether, the readily available atmospheric energy that was once used to power nearly everything. It was free and abundant. I am a Tartarianist. I know we live in a world based on many lies, but in my mind, the biggest lie was the cover-up of the Tartarian Empire. The controllers practically erased them from history, relegating any future theorists like myself to the far-flung realms of fantasy and fiction, forever locked in battle with the cognitively dissonant, sheep-walking masses who refuse to even acknowledge the possibility that Tartaria even existed. Our world is pretty fucked up. It is being ruled by selfish, money-grubbing elitist warmongers who give zero fucks about the best interests of the people. While a lot of people can see this fact, there are a great many who are reluctant to even open their eyes to what's really going on. The Tartarian Empire was a technologically advanced civilization. The technology was based on frequency generation, cymatic symbology, sound-generated vibration, and on the capturing and distribution of the endless supply of free etheric energy. Our current technology was initially based on the combustion engine, using flammable fuel sources such as wood, coal, and oil to generate unsustainable energy at a large cost to the people and with a hugely negative impact on our environment. The two civilizations couldn't be more different. These airships are a major piece of evidence to show a mere glimpse of the lies that dominate our world. As I've shown before, these mighty airships were once kings of the skies. They came in all shapes and sizes, and they enabled the Tartarian Empire to expand across the world. These airships have been hidden from us. We were not taught about these sky machines in school. In fact, they taught us that the Wright Flyer made the first sustained flight by a manned, heavier-than-air powered and controlled aircraft, an airplane, on December 17, 1903, invented and flown by the brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright. They lied to us and told us that the airplane marked the beginning of the pioneer era of aviation. It's easy to spot this lie just seeing any airship that existed before 1900, and they were everywhere. Wake up, it's all a lie. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, follow, and share. Mr. 76, signing out.
Yeah, time for a deeper look into these.
The Shenandoah was the first rigid airship to moor to a floating mast, such as the U.S. Navy devised and installed on the tanker Patoka. Another of her pioneering ventures was a 9,000-mile trip in the fall of 1924 around the periphery of the United States by way of mooring masts at Fort Worth, Texas, San Diego, California, and Fort Lewis, Washington. The Graf Zeppelin was the first to be put in service September 1928. The Graf didn't use gasoline. Instead, her 5 Maybach engines were driven by blau gas, a hydrocarbon fuel gas of about the same density as air, with time out in 1929 for a world cruise, not just as a stunt, but with a payload of 6,000 pounds in passengers, mail, and baggage. Lakehurst to Friedrichshafen. To Tokyo. to Los Angeles. And back to Lakehurst. Here's the record. This outstanding record achieved with no casualties, not even an injury, or air sickness. Comfort is one of the rigid airship's greatest contributions. Accommodations would include staterooms, promenade decks, lounges, library, restaurant, and bar. The unique...
Yeah, but now you're crammed into that coach seat.
So one question you have given me a lot is, how do these massive airships load from the front on these mooring stations? We'll just take a look at some of these pictures here of the people walking in on those lowered ramps. And all these diagrams and images are available for free on my Telegram page, by the way. But most people just think of an airship's cabin as that. But if you look here, the inside is mostly hollow and quite a lot of space. So much so they even have elevators in some of them. And of course, no cruise would be complete without a top floor promenade, able to catch in all those awesome sights. Airships like the Hindenburg, for example, was able to carry over 1,000 passengers, with accommodations for all walks of life and all classes. And sure, though it doesn't beat the speed of a jet, it definitely beats the speed of boats, and get across the Atlantic in just about 2 days. And you can do it in style without being crammed in a little tin can, having to wait for hours and hours at an airport. Whether it's long trips or short trips, rich or poor, there was space for all. Even had several kitchens on board, so you can catch a nice meal and a beautiful view. And I always have to show off this awesome map of the Hindenburg. Spot the underwater land masses there. Perhaps an actual truthful map of a post-reset time. Now, if you really want cool, let me know if you want to see the interiors of some of these military airships. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Amazing. I really wish I could have flown on one.
Because the airships of Great Tartaria were made from externally insulated but internally conductive metal framework, an electrical charge was transferred into the metal framework. Currents of electricity were then directionally used to lift and propel the airships of Great Tartaria. Whilst in flight, the metallic airships of Tartaria were continually able to optimally absorb telluric electricity from the atmosphere by the use of conductive antennae.
So cool.
The versatile airships of the old world. This one is an American airship attempting a water rescue of a capsized vessel in the Chesapeake Bay, and making it look quite easy and effortless. In fact, I think they could even give modern helicopters a run for their money, with a much longer range and flight time. And what heck of a sight it would have been to see. Question everything, friends.
Yeah, I wonder if it would handle better in storms as well. just seemed like a more sophisticated time to me.
Much of the aeronautic-based occult technology was seen as a threat to the controlling structure, so it wasn't until Charles Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, or Napoleon III, was given funds for the Great Army of the French Imperial Army of France in 1852. It was used by the European bankers of Switzerland until it ended on the 27th of October 1870 to ensure that aerial-based technology from Great Tartaria could be ascribed to inventors in mainland Europe as part of the suppression and historical revisionism. Because of this reason, the proficient inventor from Paris in north-central France, known as Henry Giffard, would be given the schematics for a uniquely designed airship that had been previously manufactured in Great Tartaria.
Neat.
2 airships from the old world, cruising around the Statue of Liberty. Maybe that torch was accessible back then. Maybe it was just another mooring station removed, as I believe many Mandela effects are like that. Intentional rewrites of history causing little ripple effects. Like remembering being able to access the Statue of Liberty's torch, but not quite remembering the full reason why. Same with the bleached out, doctored skies of the old world photos we get, hiding the abundant use of airships and other flying machines of the past, long before our little airplanes came along.
100%. That's what I think.
Here's 1887. Here's how people were flying around, aerial vessels. You know, you got the Wright brothers where they're flying their plane, their first plane flight, and the people aren't even paying attention. They're like looking off to the side, you know, and not even in shock and awe for the first airplane because people were already in the air. You know, I started to realize that all of this stuff was already existing, but the people who were living at the time didn't realize what they were living in. And then as they would do these resets through war and different actions, hurricanes, fires, you know, or storms and things like that, then all of a sudden they wipe this stuff out. And then they bring in a new Oregon Trail. Everybody remembers playing that game. And your mule died of dysentery. And then those people thought, oh, okay, this is how we get to, you know, doing X, Y, and Z. And that's why I think you said where we should be much farther advanced. Yes, 100%. Because when you look at what the technology was in the 1900s, you had solar panels in the 1900s, you had atmospheric energy, you had Tesla, you know, you had Herman Clausen, you had Nathan B. Stubblefield, you had John Keeley. John Keeley created an ether motor, a motor that ran on our mind, 1888. So you're sitting there thinking, where did that go? Where did all this technology go? And what I realize is we've been paralyzed because we're not looking at the past, so we don't know that these things existed, and then we're sold a narrative of unsustainable, you know, world economic nonsense, and then we don't see what we really had. It always here. It was always here. And that's why I like to go back to these pictures and kind of, you know, throw them in there so we can see what we once were, or what we were maybe once a part of when there were much larger people.
Yeah, nothing new under the sun. It's just rehashed tech.
See, that's the problem with a lot of people. They never actually look into anything. They just quickly rush to condone anything that doesn't go with the narrative. But as you can see, they fit a lot more than 8 to 12 people. Many of them were even aircraft carriers, capable of holding a whole bay of fighters. But to the passenger side, people from all walks of life, from all classes, and way more than 12, were allowed to fly to Europe and America in a little under 2 days, in a luxurious setting the airline can never hope to match. From the lower class to the high class, airships were travel for all, comfortably and efficiently. They even had outdoor decks where you could catch some fresh air, catch the sights, and after a nice day of sightseeing from a bird's eye view, have a chef cook a nice quality meal, and the dining halls for all classes, not just for the rich, and lounges to sit back and relax with friends and family after a nice meal. Definitely looks like a lot more than 12 people here. See, that's how they're able to hide it in plain sight. People just blindly assume and go along with the narrative. Well, I say question everything, friends. Until next time.
Yeah, so much of why we are and where we are today is because no one looks into anything.
Oh, we've got your ass. We've got your ass now. Have you ever wondered why in so many of the old pictures, the sky is completely white? Not one cloud, not one bird, nothing. It's like it's been whitewashed. Now what are they trying to hide? Giant airships. Oh my days. Oh my diddy. They was everywhere. Every city, every town. There was even docking stations where people would get on board and the airships would be refueled. But it didn't stop there. There was many different kinds of flying machines. Flying bikes, motor-powered flying vehicles, jetpacks, even flying cars. So much of our history has been hidden. The question is, why?
This is a wild rabbit hole.
Let's take an awesome inside tour of the Graf Zeppelin on its 5,000-mile trip to Rio.
Continuing down the West African coast on our 5,000-mile trip to Rio, we fly close to a large liner and obtain magnificent views of her. We wonder what the passengers are thinking about with their air rival up above. How they must envy our speed as we rapidly overtake them. Life on board the Zeppelin passes swiftly and smoothly. We play cards and other games and watch the miles slip rapidly by. In the distance, we get a brief view of Cape Verde, but our 80 miles an hour gait soon leaves Africa behind. In the 110-ton Zepp are rest rooms and cabins, cozy and comfortable. And a particularly fine navigating room from which the whole ship is controlled. Writing and games soon bring us to the end of a perfect day, during which we have covered over 1,500 miles. The next morning, we were early astir, and shortly after breakfast was finished, we managed to get some unique shots of the interior of the hull of the Sky Giant, accompanying the captain on his tour of the airship. Power eggs, as they are called, each house a 550 horsepower engine, and these engines run unceasingly day and night. From below, however, one obtains a most impressive idea of the great size and power of the ship, views which well repay all the trouble of getting them. But it isn't such an easy job getting in and out of the cars, especially with a camera, as we very quickly found out. And so we glide along, rolling down to Rio across the vast Atlantic.
It's amazing. It's like...
Then you get into more blimps. Check that. You got more blimps. People just flying around. Monte Carlo Bay. Just flying around with the blimps. And what's interesting is look at that. If you guys zoom in real close, doesn't that building look like it's built on an angle? So what's below it? You go into the world fairs and there's all these aerodomes that they would hold the people in. They would hold all these thousands and hundreds, even maybe millions of people in these world fairs, which acted like resets. But here's what they didn't tell you. What they were holding people were for blimps and airships. And you can see that right there. That huge aerodome was where they held the people so they could hold a convention. And they could brainwash the people into believing that this is not there, right? We get rid of that. We got rid of the blimps and the Zeppelins and all those other things. That was the first one. And the second part was they would hold all the people in there and tell them all about the World Fair. And it's interesting because when you look at the events at the World Fair, you can see on the people's faces that they are not interested. They're not interested at all. Why are they not interested? Because they've already seen all this stuff. It's already all been there.
It's an interesting perspective.
This is the landing of the Graf Zeppelin airship in Los Angeles. And if you look real closely here, you can see the fighters flying in formation from the hangar of the Zeppelin. And Amazing how something so big can move so quickly. What amazes me also is the crowds that these things gathered. Thousands gathered around just to see a glimpse of this. I don't blame them. I would definitely be one of those in that crowd. It'd be amazing to see something that massive in the sky just floating through with ease. And of course, with the one false flag, the future of air travel was forever altered. Question everything, friends.
Yep, the Hindenburg was basically a scapegoat to get rid of these cruise ships in the sky, right?
These giant, slow-moving airships like the Zeppelin seem like easy targets. But in World War I, they weren't that easy to shoot down. Its biggest advantage was probably altitude. By 1917, Zeppelins could reach 20, even 30,000 feet, whereas modern aircraft had a hard time getting to and above 10,000. The same goes for anti-aircraft fire, which was a relatively new thing in World War I. For targets above 20,000 feet, it was pretty ineffective. But even if it was hit by standard bullets or shrapnel, it just created slow leaks, and the airship could stay afloat for hours, even days, with minimal issue. Over time, anti-aircraft fire got better. Planes improved and started carrying incendiary bullets, which all but ended the combat role of airships. But in World War I, they were a serious threat.
Yeah, basically, a flying aircraft carrier.
This book talks about the lighthouses. Here you guys go. This is a great one. And then that's another lighthouse. And let me show you what connects to the lighthouse. The blimps. These were mooring masts. That's what they were originally called. And they would connect to the blimps. And so when people wanted to travel around, you know those lighthouses, how they're out in the middle of the ocean? That's how they were traveling around. They could connect up right to that. And the top of this can gather a static charge, so it can produce energy, and you could connect your little Zeppelin or blimp right to that. Because when you start to think about lighthouses, how they're just out in the middle of the ocean, and somebody built that, this is a really good one. Somebody was just out there, they're like, oh, we're gonna put the stone thing, we're gonna float it, we're gonna put an underground entrance in there, maybe a couple more rooms. You could go down deep into the ocean. You're building into the ocean now. This is kind of like when you go out in Spain and you go to Ibiza. Most people don't know that Ibiza has tunnels underneath it.
Yeah, you know, that's a very good point. Basements of lighthouses.
Additionally, the various Tartarian lighthouses functioned as crystalline beacons for navigational reasons. The lighthouses of Great Tartaria effectively marked dangerous coastlines, hazardous reefs, rocks and safe entries to harbours, but the different Tartarian lighthouses also assisted in aerial navigation of the airships. Once widely used, the number of operational lighthouses has declined due to the expense of maintenance and has become uneconomical since the advent of much cheaper, more sophisticated and purposeful electronic navigational routes.
It's very interesting.
Most of these towers have a smaller top belfry with windows too small to walk through, but perfect for a landing technician for sighting and mooring. If this theory is correct, then we can also see that it wasn't just the largest and most important buildings that had this technology, but private residences also had mooring points for smaller airships on their roofs. There is a theory that these buildings doubled as atmospheric energy harvesters, and for all we know, they were also recharging these airships while moored, and that this free energy technology may be part of the reason they could be hiding the existence of these once commonplace airships. Which brings us to structures such as the Eiffel Tower, the Blackpool Tower, and the thousands of other towers around the world, also with platforms, mooring architecture, and possible atmospheric harvesting technology.
Yeah. Based off everything we've seen so far.
You are quite right. It is far from just airships. that the whited out skies from the photos of our past were hiding. Thankfully, there are still a lot of scraps remaining, where we can see the details of atmospheric anomalies, unidentified flying objects appearing again and again in so many religious art and so much other artwork from the time. And as I said many times before, the artists of the past were depicting exactly what they saw. Another famous example is the Battle of Nuremberg in 1561, where residents woke up to the sky filled with crafts and fireballs, literally hundreds exploding in the sky. Spheres, triangles, cylinders, and crosses were whizzing past each other. Spheroid UFOs were seen emerging from cylinder shapes and darting across the sky. Perhaps many atmospheric events like we're witnessing happening today were also seen in the skies in the old world. And who knows, airships and flight, I believe, have been around a lot longer than they told us. It's only possible that the skies of our whited out past were filled with them. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Absolutely.
The New Yorker put out a post about the new generation of airships and air travel, and another article on why airships may be the future of travel. Oh, you didn't know? This is old world technology, and look at this ship. My boy True Earthers Unite just did a video on this, talking about how these floating cities could hold 1,100 people. That's the population of Wayne City. And I like the headline of his page. It says, free travel anywhere. Now, the travel itself isn't just free. The energy is. Look at the headline of this old article. Strange lifting force. A lot of people are mystified of how these giant structures stayed in the air with entire cities built on the inside of them. You ever heard of the band Led Zeppelin? Yeah, well, this is a Zeppelin, and it's made of steel. So how does it float? Well, you see it's tethering to these Tesla coil-looking structures. It's also a docking port where people dock onto it. Well, what is this strange lifting force that keeps these things afloat? Let me take you to a patent that's very popular here on this channel, the Triangular Spacecraft. And taking a quick look at the abstract, this little deal here flies using vertical electrostatic line charges that create a horizontal plane wave, basically creating a portable Van de Graaff generator and counteracting the weight of the object to fly. Wait, why wouldn't NASA have this technology? They do! In fact, NASA has an electrostatic levitation laboratory. Your real question should be, wait a minute, how is this anti-gravity craft not somehow using the Einsteinian bending and warping of space-time theory of gravity in order to levitate? How come an anti-gravity craft uses electrostatics to levitate? Because these crafts harness the electrostatic potential in the atmosphere to achieve lift and propulsion. So why have they been covering this up and acting like it's some brand new technology all of a sudden? Because it's a big problem for this. Also, if us peasants get the idea of free energy, what kind of catastrophe's next? Fruit trees on every corner? Which, by the way, they say the reason we don't have more fruit trees in public is because, oh, well, the fruit trees just need too much tending to. No, they only need tending to if you want your apples to look like this. You know, I'd take this organic apple that tastes much better. Yeah, it rots quicker, but I'd rather have it over this GMO wax apple. And I call BS on the public fruit thing because you ever been to like a tropic place? You ever left the United States and went to like Costa Rica or places where they have wild fruit trees everywhere and you just One more shout out to my boy Phoenix for sending me this article. It's time that we uncover the old world and bring back old technologies. Quit trying to act like they're brand new.
Yeah. Well, I was inspired by all of the aerial phenomenon in New Jersey going on right now, and I didn't want to start covering that because everyone else is covering that. And I've been waiting for the right time to get into the whited out skies and the airships. So this is just a taste. Obviously we'll go in deeper, you know how the channel works. But that's all I got today, guys. Sorry about yesterday. It is what it is, you know. Like I said, I'll try to be in when I can, but with Christmas coming up, it's It's going to be tough, but I'll be back when I can. But until then, 80 Canadian. Signing off.